Okay, Divine Rising. I'm JP the Notary, aka James Patterson, and I'm coming to you from our Atlanta Professional Mobile Notary Services. Okay, and whenever we provide educational material, it's from our academy. We also run the Atlanta Notary Academy. So just so you know, I've been an educator and an instructor since about 2011. So about 11 years now. And also I teach, I've been a college professor since 2017. So 5 years in that as well. And so I've taught federal trainings, state trainings, and I've also done a lot of community outreach as well. So when I'm speaking to you, I'm not just someone on YouTube who's starting a channel just to talk to you. And I'm not knocking anyone who is, because it is a great educational platform, and I've learned from a lot of people who have done that. Well, I've learned from people who have done that. But I'm also just letting you know I'm an educator, and this is what I do, and I've been doing it for years now. I also have 3 degrees already, and I'm working on my PhD now. And my PhD is in integrative public policy and development. And so I'm a firm believer. I tell all my students at the college level and anyone that I educate that if you want to elevate yourself, you need to educate yourself. And so as much as I am a professor and a teacher, I'm also a student as well. And I will always be a student because I'm a firm believer in, again, educating yourself to elevate yourself. Okay, so I said all that to say, you are in good hands, and I'm not telling you that we're the only people who can educate you. I'm a firm believer in having multiple advisors to advise you and help you with your personal and professional growth and development. And so I'm also a professor of career and professional development at Clayton State University. Okay, and so I am a firm believer that you really have to understand the industry that you work in, because every industry is different. When I worked, and I still work in agriculture and estate planning as well. And in that field, when you go out into the field, you can have on a polo, but it's typically going to be a dry fit polo, and it's probably going to get dirty, so that's part of working outdoors in agriculture. I have my forestry boots right over here, right by the door. And the reason I do is because, again, you have to dress for the occasion. And so Nomex pants is very, standard in that industry. And yeah, I mean, I still love being in the outdoors and working outside in the field. So you have to dress for that. So professionalism is a key part of any industry, and is key part of your success in whatever it is you're doing. So today we're talking about professionalism as a notary, okay? And specifically, we're talking about discretion, okay? It's very, very important that you practice discretion in being a notary. Why? Well, you're dealing with people's personal identifiable information, and you're handling a lot of personal, private matters, for these people. And so one of the things I talked about in a recent video was the notarial journal, okay? And if you go to the NNA, the National Notary Association, they have it's almost like it's a map, it's a GIS map. And so I'm a GIS expert as well. I've been performing GIS tasks for the last 15 or 16 years. So I'm a GIS expert and specialist. And GIS is essentially data science, and it's data visualization, okay? You take data, you learn about that data, and then you map it in order for people to be able to understand information. And you can also create trends and show trends. And so with this map, what they're showing you is there are states that a notarial journal is required, and there are states that it's recommended. So we run a company, Atlanta Professional Mobile Notary Services and Atlanta Notary Academy, and we're based in Metro Atlanta, okay? And because of that, we abide by the state notarial laws of Georgia. And Georgia recommends that you have a notarial journal. And so I talked about this in the last video, but this speaks to the importance of discretion and why it is very essential. If you're going to be a professional notary, that you practice discretion. One of the key things is if you have a notarial journal, some basic information is going to be the date and the time that the notarial act occurred, what form number, the document number. So some forms, like there's a DDS 3350, and I can be wrong, 3035. Essentially, there's these forms though, and you at the bottom or the top of them, it'll have some letters and a number which specifically speak to that form. And so that also provides protection for the client and for the notary as well, because if you perform a notarial act on a date and time, it also speaks to what form you actually notarized when that person appeared in front of you, or persons appeared in front of you. Okay, what the fee did they pay and what the fee was. Then, what kind of notarization was this? Is this a power of attorney? Was this an acknowledgement? Was this an affidavit? Was this a deed? What document? What type of document was it? School just started back, so we're notarizing a lot of residency affidavits. Okay, and essentially a residency affidavit is a person, let's say they just moved into an area and they live with a grandmother, the child's grandmother. So maybe it's your mother, maybe it's your mother-in-law. Okay, you just moved into an area, you haven't had time, or you just chose to stay with family, whatever the case, whatever the reason is, your name isn't on the lease or on that deed. So you're living with someone else, and your child is now going to be going to school in the area. So you want to put your kid, let's say you want to put your kid in the nearest school, and that school's 2 blocks away. They're going to, I can't say all schools, but I know that in Georgia, we have been notarizing a lot of these documents. And so the county essentially is asking for documentation to say, why do you want this kid to go to school here? And, it's just proof essentially that, you are a resident of, this said address, so that your kid can go attend this school. Okay. And so even that in itself, you're talking about someone's child, a parent, because the child's information is going on there, the parent's information is going on there, and the tenant, if their person is renting, or if the person that the parent and child live with own, that person's name and information is going on there as well. And if the person is renting, then the leasing agent or owner is also named is going to be on that as well. So potentially 3 to 4 people, at least 3 typically, but potentially 4 people are going to be involved in this document. So we don't really keep copies of these documents as the notary. We don't keep copies, but when the forms come to us, again, that is very personal information. Someone's home address, what their child's name is, their child's birthday. And so that's why it's so important to practice discretion, because people are giving you a lot of information, as well as in the notarial journal. So I talked about like the left page of the notarial journal. When you get to the right page of the notarial journal, you're going to be, whoever is signing, their name and address is on the first block. That's very personal, as well as in the said documentation. You're getting to see these things. And so even you as a notary, you're being duly commissioned, meaning that your commission is valid, it's active, the same way you check and make sure that the client's identification, government issued ID, is valid, it has not expired. It's very important because the next block is that person's valid government ID. So whether it's a passport, a driver's license, or I was just reading something about the ability to be able to use veteran ID cards. What's another form of ID? Sometimes there's counselor IDs that people may utilize. There's state identification cards that people utilize. So maybe someone doesn't have a driver's license, or maybe they don't have it with them, but they have a state ID card that's issued by the state of Georgia. It has a ID number, it has a date of birth, it has an expiration date, and it has an issue date on that ID. Okay. So like another passport forms, a parent isn't going to be present and a child needs a passport, but the other parent is going to be there. There's documentation for that, and everything I just described has to not only go into the notarial journal, it has to go on that form. And so we deal with a lot of estate planning guys. That's really why we started the business. I'm an expert on air property, and that's what I actually studied my thesis work on, was air property. I'm actually publishing an article on it right now. So as soon as I get done with this video, I'm gonna like eat really, really quickly, and then I'm gonna be back to writing, and I'm gonna spend the next 5 hours doing that. I'm gonna take a break to go handle some stuff for the family, and then after we eat, I'll be right back to writing until midnight, 1 a.m. And so I'm very passionate about estate planning. And so when you're handling estate planning, guys, even people sometimes are very fearful of even serving as a witness on these documents, because they feel like if they serve as a witness that, you know, they have some liability in these documents. And so, and then you also have people who don't want to talk to their family members about these things. Some people are superstitious. Their children may be superstitious. Mom, dad, I don't want you to get a will because now you're talking about dying, even though it's just a very important, essential document. These documents like a power of attorney, an advanced healthcare directive, and a will. You know, these are very important documents to have when it comes to estate planning, because again, once something happens, you know, it could be essentially too late to have these documents. So if someone dies without a legal will, you have what the state calls, you have died intestate succession. So what that means is you have, if you don't have a will, an estate, or some legal, you know, document. There's another form, a trust is what a trust. So if you don't have a will, a trust, some legal document to say how you want your assets to be managed and dispersed or passed to your legal heirs or to whoever you want them to go to, then the state determines how your assets will be managed and transferred to your heirs. And so each state has a different system. And, you know, even if you have a will, James Brown died, he had a will. It took 14 years for his will to be probated. And so, you know, by that time, so much had changed in his family's life. Like 14 years is a nice length of time, that, you know, even if there is money that's left in it, it's just challenging because you might have needed that money 14 years ago. So I'm not telling you which way to do it, but a trust is nice because a trust, you know, almost operates as a person. And, you know, whatever rules and guidelines you set, that's how the trust will operate. And so not having a will can put you in a very perplexed situation, because if you have, let's say you have a spouse and you have 7 children, you know, if you don't have a legal will and you own land, now your heirs have, you know, equal interest. Most of the time, you know, each state's gonna say if you got a wife, some states have what they call survivorship, meaning that the spouse has like 50% interest, and then the rest of the interest is divvied up between the kids, but they have access to the house until they die. And then once that spouse dies, then it goes to the remaining heirs, the 7 kids. But you may not have wanted it to go that way. You might have wanted to give it to your youngest, who you feel like is the most responsible. Some people are at odds with their spouse, even though they're still legally married. So there's just all these different complexities. And this goes back to why discretion is so important, because, you know, some people don't even want their spouse to know, you know, about some of these documentations that are being created, or it may be for an elder in their family. So they may not want the granddaughter or the spouse to know about these things. So they will come to you as a notary and have a very, very discreet conversation with you, but a very essential and important conversation with you. And they're telling you things that they have not even shared with their family members who, you know, they may have known their whole entire life. Okay, so discretion is going to be so key. So going back to the notarial journal, the last part of it is that person's going to sign after they put all their, so whatever form of ID they use, let's say they use a Georgia license. So you're going to put GA, you're going to put the digits, and then once you get done with the number, the ID number, you're going to put their date of birth, their expiration date, and then you're going to allow them to sign in the column next to it. And now the notarial journal is, you know, you do that for every signer Also like to do it for the witnesses. If a document requires a witness, like, wills, deeds, estate planning documents tend to require witnesses, powers of attorneys. And so when you, again, just putting those witnesses in the notarial journal, it just validates even more that, like, hey, I follow the state laws, and I notarize this document properly, and here's proof. Okay, but again, that's a lot of personal identifiable information. So tend to keep my notarial journal with me at all times, because as a notary, you just never know when you're going to get a call. It's funny because, like I said, I always have my stamp with me as well. And it's very important for you to keep both of those things private, because if someone gets access to your stamp, it's not going to say, Tiffany stamped for JP the notary, no, or James Patterson. It's not going to say that. It's just going to have your name, your commission information on it, and it's going to be on said document. So even if you didn't notarize it, someone stole your stamp, or you left it out in public, or you left it out someplace where other people have access to it, and they go stamp documents, you're going to be the one that's liable for it. And I haven't seen any court cases where someone ended up in that situation, but I don't know what kind of defense you have. The thing that you can do is, if you lose your notarial stamp, or misplace it, or it's whatever, it's stolen, you can actually report that, and then they can issue you another one. And that, to me, gives you a lot more grounds and security to say, like, hey, it's possible that somebody took this thing, is out there running rampant with it. So that's important. That's part of the discretion and being discreet. Another thing is, again, people are coming to you with very personal, private, important matters. So whether it's estate planning, documents like wills, trusts, powers of attorneys, divorce documents. To be honest, one of the three top things that we notarize are estate planning documents, real estate documents, and divorce documents. Like, it happens. It's no secret that in America, divorce is a common thing. And so with that being said, it behooves you to practice discretion, even when your clients, come and meet you, just being able to have a quiet place that you can really just work, that's not right in front of the open. So even if a client, let's say the client's a doctor, and they meet you in the front right next to the receptionist, and they've already called you and told you what, hey, this is some divorce documents. They might start kind of try to talk to you out in front. You can always just say, hey, hey, Dr. Dirt, Joe Dirt, or Jane Dirt, is there a more quiet place that we can go? And because people are going through so much, sometimes they aren't even really, they're present, but they're not always necessarily thinking about that. And I think typically they will appreciate you. And so, even again, going back to me being a professor of career and professional development, it behooves you, because this is your business. This is you're the notary. Okay. And so the experience is going to be key to how you orient it. And I feel like just understanding the power that we have, and using it positively, you want to give people a good experience. You want them to feel comfortable. You want them to know that they can trust you, and that they're dealing with a professional notary. So with that being said, discretion is going to be essential to you and your clients having an excellent professional experience, and them coming back to you for more appointments in the future, and even having positive reviews. So I would just again tell you, keep your notary stamp safe, keep your notary journal safe. When your clients come to you, like how I'm talking to you all, I haven't mentioned anyone's name or any personal identifiable information. You want to be discreet about what your clients tell you about. Once you and your clients leave that room, the information that they share with you, it doesn't leave that room either, not from you. If they choose to go somewhere and tell somebody, hey, JP the notary helped me with divorce, or with real estate, or with documents for my children, or passports, or whatever, they have a right to do that, because that is their personal information. It's their life. We're adults, so they have a right to do that. But as far as myself, I don't do that. And another thing is, sometimes with documents, we print out extra copies so that if the client makes a mistake, or if a mistake is made during the notarial appointment, that we don't have to go back and print more documents, or so just to keep everything running efficiently. If we have those extra copies, because we don't always do it, but it is a practice, those documents are shredded. Okay, we shred those documents. Why? Because discretion. Okay, you don't want the document, someone's real estate deeds, or someone's business partnership agreement, or someone's residency affidavit with the address and things of that nature. Just anything that just doesn't, just laying around, or I don't even just throw it in the trash. Like I said, shred it. Just go ahead and shred it. And again, it's just a key part of professionalism and discretion. So I really encourage you to practice that, and you will really see the benefit of doing that when it comes to your clients and how your business will grow, because people will really trust you with their personal matters. As a notary, I was really shocked at how much we are needed in the community and all the things that we do for people. So you're truly a public servant. Have a blessed day.